What's up, guys? This is Jakob. I'm a content AI manager and I'm helping entrepreneurs around the world with their content strategy using AI technology for your business. I'm also creator of the Content AI coin that I launched currently, and I'm going to interview today Nathan Labenz. He's the founder of Waymark, which is an AI-powered video creation tool for creating your own commercials. So very excited to speak today with you. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here and look forward to talking about AI.
Yes, that's all about this show is all about AI. So I'm really curious about your journey and also the product that you created so far. But before we jump into the AI topic, can you introduce yourself in a nutshell? So who are you and why are you doing the things that you're doing?
Sure. Well, my name is Nathan Labenz. I am the founder, as you said, of Waymark, and we are building an AI-powered video creation experience that is really designed to be super simple and kind of accessible for everyday folks. So people who don't spend a lot of time creating content and people who are not super familiar with all of the latest developments in AI. I've been a software entrepreneur for a number of years, and really everything I've ever built has been an attempt at a done for you kind of experience. Really trying to minimize how much time people have to spend on site. In some ways, kind of the anti-Facebook in the sense that if Facebook tries to keep you on the product as much as possible, we try to get you to a goal and off the product as quickly as possible. That's always kind of how I've thought about the software that we've built. And in the context of video, that has meant over the last handful of years, we've been building a very UI driven product, trying to make it easy to do. If you can use a web form, you can make a video on Waymark has kind of been the way that we've thought about it. And that has worked reasonably well, but it's never quite been the done for you experience that I've always envisioned, right? Because we've certainly worked hard to make it as quick as possible. We've done some really kind of clever things on the side also to source content for users, mostly just kind of recycling existing stuff that they already have. So, going out and fetching all their photos and whatnot from the internet. But we couldn't ever quite put all that together into a truly done for you experience where you could just say, I want a video and get a video back. We never quite could crack that until really the last year or so. That has started to become possible with all the big developments that are happening with large language models, which we're now using in our script writing feature, as well as comparable breakthroughs, I would say, in computer vision that are allowing us to, without any kind of specific training, use some of these large pre-trained models to understand the images that a user already has that they bring to the table when they sign up for the product, and make that really useful by kind of making it a part of the script writer. So there's a lot to, I know we've got an audience that is paying attention to this kind of stuff, so I'm diving right into some of the details there. But that has been, it's been something I've been kind of always had my eye on building this kind of AI powered done for you sort of experience, and ended up spending a lot. We're a little bit ahead of the foundational technology there. So we ended up kind of spending a lot of time working on UI to kind of smooth over stuff that the underlying technology couldn't yet do for you. But it's extremely fun these days to kind of sign on every day in the morning and bring that experience that we've always kind of imagined of the computer really working for you to life, and being able to do that in kind of a natural. I view what we're doing, yes, as content creation because we're helping people create videos, but I also think that there's a whole massive kind of change coming, new computing paradigm coming, which is the natural language computing paradigm. And so we're really we have our particular use case, which is video creation, but I think as much as that, I think of myself as kind of exploring this new paradigm of natural language computing. And so I'm having a lot of fun doing all that on a daily basis.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. But maybe, so you're already giving a lot of details. Can you explain the combination between natural language programming and also the video content part. So for me, when I hear NLP, this is for me more for text production and using GPT-3 for blog articles and social media captions. And so where's the connection point, the connecting dot between the text part and also the video part?
Yeah, so I guess our product, there's a lot of ways you could potentially attack that problem. We already have a product that makes video creation pretty easy, and it gives our users, we have a big library of professionally produced content, and our product has often been compared historically to Squarespace. Squarespace makes it really easy to make a website. You don't have to be a web developer. Waymark makes it really easy to make a video. You don't have to be an editor, right? You can just kind of make it your own by adding your own content. That's copy, that's which appears on screen, different times in the video. That's the imagery that you have that you can put into place. It's video clips if you have any. Most of our users actually don't really even have much in the way of video clips. So text and images combined in kind of an animated, effective communication format tends to be where they end up. But yeah, you're right. I mean, one of the big challenges right now, especially when you're, the AI the diffusion models will be coming for video as well. So I think we're going to have straight text to video types of tools for before too long, but they'll still be like very unwieldy, very kind of artistic, very kind of out there. And what our users need more is something that's kind of a little bit more defined, that kind of meets certain requirements. Our typical users are small businesses, and they need something that will kind of work on Facebook or work on YouTube, or we have actually a big couple of big partnerships in the TV space. So we do a lot of TV commercials as well. And so, the Squarespace analogy is they've got their library of site templates. You can make your own. We've got a library of video templates that you can make your own. And so we mediate the script writing through a text interface, essentially through a large language model, but we have to represent everything as text and then use fine-tuned models to kind of create the right text representation that we need, custom to that business, informed by what they do, what their website says, all the images that they have, all that kind of stuff. And then I think of it almost as like dehydrating and rehydrating a video, right? We have to dehydrate it down to kind of a pure text form that can be processed, and then we can bring that back to life by taking the transformed text and bringing it back to video format so you can actually watch it. But that's a big part of where I spend a lot of time. So I think you're really focusing on something that I think is going to be just a much bigger trend over really not the long term, but kind of pretty short to maybe into the medium term. It's just so many tasks starting to be mediated through fine-tuned large language models. I see like so much stuff going that way. And even if it's not something that's pure text, it can often be represented as text if you kind of, work hard to figure out an effective way to do that. And then of course we'll have multimodal models coming along, I'm sure in product form before too long as well, but we don't have that really yet. So for now, everything gets represented as text.
Okay, as this reminds me a little bit. So when people start with your product, is it so? Because I created today a video with a tool that I'm using. It's called Pictory, and what I can do is I have a paragraph or a blog article or something. I'm uploading this article, and the language model is scanning the text and creating short sentences, and then looking for images or in videos that works best. So where the keywords are inside, and then creating a small image video. Is it like this? So, but more on commercials?
Yeah, similar sort of concept. Definitely much more of a focus in our library for commercials.
Okay.
The AI component probably doesn't care as much about the fact that it's a commercial as the existing, product form factor and library does. So that's pretty interesting. Under the hood, it probably has maybe more in common than, and I don't know the details of what what picture. I haven't actually tried that product. It's been a little while, so you're inspiring me to go back and try it out again and see what updates they have. I'm sure they've got some significant ones because everything is moving so quickly. But yeah, I suspect that there's definitely overlap there in terms of figuring out what is the right kind of distilled or dehydrated text representation for a video. Let the language model bring that to life with copy and suggested values and all that kind of stuff, and then bring that back into a video format that then the user can continue to edit if they want to do that. I mean, we could do that. I don't know if you can do a share on your
Sure.
on this, but we could go ahead and just do one if you want to.
But I'm not sure if you can share. You want to share your screen, you mean?
We could go either way.
So I can go to the website.
Yeah, we don't have a ton of international traffic, so but we can try and our product is mostly English, but we can definitely go try making a video, and we can kind of walk through it together. But you can have the controls if you want. It should be pretty damn easy. If it's not easy, we got a problem.
So now I just have to take the overlay.
Yeah, look at you, looking good.
So now,
so yeah, at some point along the way, you're going to be prompted to make an account. And the marketing is really geared toward partnership with media companies because that's where we've found the most initial business success. So we work with small businesses. You could play any of these videos and they will be very, kind of local small business advertiser sort of style. We work with the businesses directly and then also work with the media companies that serve them. And if you go to the top menu up there and hit, do you see the menu? That's a strange thing. Scroll a little bit down and just go to one of the templates and hit view template.
This one? Or
where the videos were. Yeah, keep going there. So just click on any of the template links. Yeah. That should take you to a place where you can try it out. Is it not doing anything for you?
It's just a second. I have to remove that one. I shared just a second.
Oh, it popped out a new window. I see.
Yeah. But
we're doing live visibility testing here as we go.
Yeah, we're flexible. Everything fine.
So, were you?
Just a second.
Oh, I see what happened your first time too.
Okay. No,
I will report your bug. What happened there is when you narrowed the window to get it in the kind of tall format, the menu broke.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So this is our editor. So basically you have
cool.
The video is going to load up on the left. You have all these editing controls that you can do on the right. And you can go through and manually, change all the colors, change the music, make different kind of selections about the different scenes that will appear, et cetera, et cetera. This video has some footage in it and also a bunch of images and obviously copy. So maybe just hit play. If you hit play on the video, you'll get a sense for what it is we're dealing with here.
Cool.
So if you go, again, so you could upload images here, upload clips, et cetera, but just go ahead and hit back in the menu and go go up to the top here and hit choose a brand. And this is where we'll get into the AI experience. You'll have to just real quick, it's expecting a password here. So hit create. I think you're going to have to hit, oh no, you're good. Sorry. We did improve that. I talk too much.
Yeah, sometimes. I have to get my password.
Okay, so now you can add a new brand profile here. So just go ahead and hit add new. Now we integrate with a couple different APIs including Facebook and Google, to find your business just based on the business name and the city. So if you want, you could do if you have something that's well represented online, then that's great.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm internationally, but I'm living in Hamburg, so
yeah, let's try it.
Yeah,
Let's see what it comes. If it finds your page, great. If not, our common users are like local businesses where the city definitely matters quite a bit. Are any of those your page?
no, don't see my brand.
So you can create one as like manually as well.
Membership. So it should be like my website name, right?
You probably should see your Facebook
Facebook?
page. You should see like your Facebook page profile picture is probably what will appear on the left usually if it's succeeding in finding you.
But I don't have a business page on Facebook. I have one on LinkedIn. I don't use Facebook for.
We can't get as good a read on LinkedIn, so maybe just try a local business.
Try my. Okay.
Because we are limited to business pages.
Oh.
So you could do, or I could give you a local business as well if you want. But
yeah,
maybe just pick your favorite restaurant locally in town and see if we can find that. It definitely works better. It's more fun when you get to pick the business and it's a business that you know.
Just thinking, what kind of restaurant? There's an Asian one in downtown Hamburg. What's the name of it? I think it was a Vietnamese restaurant. I'm just Googling it. Just a second. So let's try this one. Oh no, it didn't work. Okay, let's try this one. Yeah, okay. So that's not a restaurant, but that's a really good grocery store where you can really good shop Asian products. And it's really cool.
So now that you've hit that, what is happening is we're going out and finding as much content as we can about the business. So Facebook page, Google, website, we'll go kind of import everything we can and create a little brand profile. And you can see the number of photos there should be ticking up. It just went 1, 2, 3. And I would imagine we typically would find more images than that for business. So it may just take us a few seconds for them to come in. And now you can hit brand it in the upper right. And this is where you'll get your first taste of natural language computing in our product. So this is where you're able to use your own words to prompt. Ultimately, this gets combined with our own formatting and all that good stuff to ultimately get a good result, right? But the key thing here is you can say what you want from this video in your own terms, and you can put it under these different subcategories if you happen to have any that are appropriate. So you could just say, introduce my business. You could say, we're having a sale coming up at a particular time. You could say we're hiring for, cashiers at our store. Kind of give it an idea of what you want to communicate. And then you'll hit go, and that's when the AI process will kick in, start to interpret what you asked for, and ultimately bring you back a script, written just for your prompt and also for this particular video.
So should I just try anything? Okay, my brand, event, so you can
give
create...
it some sort of direction. You can make it up, but if you just give it at least a little bit of direction, you'll get to see how it kind of interprets what you have said,
Okay.
and get a sense that okay, like yeah, it's paying attention to me.
Oops. No, it didn't work. So
Yeah, so hit
brand
the
it.
button to go, and so yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many images. Europe is tough sometimes in terms of just access to data. In the US, we have like pretty easy access to business data. I would think we would have access to that kind of website and Facebook content, but we still only see the 3 images. So that's a little bit curious. But the main process now that's going on behind the scenes is using a large language model with your prompt to write a script for this video, then looking at the images that are available for that business and choosing the right ones to put into place. And hopefully we did okay. Although if we only have 3 images, our choices are pretty limited there. A typical business will have like anywhere from 20 to 500 usually. So now you can play it again. Let's at least see what the script did. Hopefully the script makes sense. And this is definitely still a work in progress, but you at least get the sense of kind of what what the AI generation future is going to be like. And it echoes what people have seen with DALL-E, with Stable Diffusion, where you just provide those simple instructions, and then the next thing you do is kind of watch the result.
But is it only the pictures and the videos that the AI is finding from the Facebook page, or do you own also your own library of pictures and videos?
There is a stock. If you'll kind of get an answer if you just play it, but there is a stock library. We're not right now searching the stock library for you. We're just really focused on using your own images. So I don't know, depending on how many images this business ultimately had, and it still just says 3 in the UI. So it may not have much. It should at least have a decent script.
Yeah. Okay, that's right.
So those are pretty weak kind of fallback pictures. So check out what it actually found. If you go into the business, if you click on instead of remove, just hit, go into it. Look in the brand info and we'll see what we found. Because you were describing it looks like it basically has not found much. So that's why it was kind of like fashion, blah, 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 because you have essentially an empty business profile there.
Yeah, just a second. We have a small, I don't know, these kind of things that are making. I will be back in a second. Sorry.
All good.
Okay, sorry for that. Yeah, okay. But even there were only 3 pictures, and I think the result is also cool. I mean, how much time does it take? 5 minutes? And I already got a video. When I have more pictures, then I can create more high quality videos like that one. That's cool.
Yeah, I would give there was a little UI that popped up that you dismissed that asked what would you rate the video? I would probably rate it a 2 out of 5, relative to what I would consider normal functioning. Let's do one more just to show a little bit more down the fairway use case. So if you go back out of this and remove that brand, so just hit done and then remove at the top.
Yeah, I'm just Googling something, and
sure.
So what's the name of that one? I think it was Arek. Yes. Yes. Okay. I have something. And so removing, you said. Delete brand?
Yeah. You can delete it if you want to. You don't have to. If you just hit done at the top,
Oh, okay.
then you can also just kind of start over from here. So mouse over the brand and hit remove.
Oh, yeah. Remove. Okay, got it.
And now you can do another one and start the whole flow again.
Just curious about that one because this is an organization. Yeah, that one. They are basically making. It's not a company. It's more an organization which organizes events and speaking gigs about AI. And I'm also invited to give a speech in their organization. Okay, they have 10 pictures. That's really cool.
Yeah, you can see, if you want, you can see what all those pictures are, although it doesn't, you don't have to go in and browse them. You just click images right below.
Oh, yeah. Hiring.
So yeah, some fairly generic imagery, but
Let's. Oops. I didn't wrote.
you know,
Something.
it will try to write something, even if you give it no instructions, and it will just use the brand info that it found. So I didn't catch whether that was robust in this case or not. If not, then we might need some instructions to get something decent, but let's see what we get.
That's cool. I like it. It's really easy. I mean, I have now a free account, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do have a retail account, which is kind of a classic subscription. And I'm also totally happy to give a free offer to you and your audience as well. Anytime I do something like this, I usually give a little coupon code. So we can drop one of those.
Would appreciate that one. Okay, let's see what happens. Yeah,
that's kind of a generic company intro. Let's see what we had to work with. If you go into click on the name of the business up above, or you could hit remake and give instructions this time if you want to try that. But I'm curious just to see what the business actually had available.
You mean?
Yeah, if you click there and then hit brand info below, let's see how much they actually have online. Yeah, still almost nothing. When that about is blank, that's one of the biggest factors that determines whether or not we're going to have an on-topic result. Because right now, it basically is just working with the name, the kind of business, and inferring everything from that. But the models, if you had kind of a paragraph in that about section, it's trained to really use that kind of additional information.
Okay. And this is the about section on their Facebook page, right?
Yes, that's the number one place we look anyway. I've always got kind of two projects going on these days. It feels like one is training the AI to use new kinds of information, and the other is actually sourcing the information as part of this web scrape process. So I've got projects on both fronts in play right now. One to go do a better job of getting content off the website and parsing that, and then the flip side of that is actually making use of that, of course, to write better content for people.
Yeah. And can I, for example, when there was one picture maybe I didn't like, can I change?
Hit done where you are right now. Right now you're in the brand management part, but yes, remake. Now if you scroll down, you can remake. It'll do the whole thing for you, and if you scroll down, you'll have all the individual elements.
Oh, cool.
So now if you click on any of these, now you're in kind of a non-AI experience, right? Now you're going to choose your photo, upload, look in our stock photography library, crop, do whatever you kind of want to do.
Yeah.
And this is this kind of the experience, I think. A good mantra, I think, for AI products is speed, quality, and control. And you're in the control phase now, right? Where hopefully it was reasonably fast to generate something. Hopefully the
Yeah.
quality of that is good. I'd say in both cases that you tried, lack of information really hurt quality. So my big takeaway from this is I got more work to do on just sourcing robust profiles so that we can generate good content using that information. Right now, we're I think ahead. the AI is ahead of the content sourcing in this demo. But now is the phase where, okay, now I got to still make some edits, right? Like we're in a world where for professional purposes, things that come directly out of AIs are seldom viable still. And that probably won't be the case forever. But they can be a massive shortcut. They can be, an incredible
Yes.
time savings. They can be also just a great source of new ideas you wouldn't have considered, but they aren't yet, immediately ready to publish most of the time. So all of these elements are the control elements where people, and, again, you can think of our typical small business user and our big partners in the media space that are working with those businesses to advertise in local communities. The business is going to want to have just the right thing, right? They're not going to, just use what the AI gave them. That's a shortcut, but they're very much going to refine their appearance. They're going to want to make sure that, everything looks just the way they want it to before they're ultimately going to invest, what is typically not a huge marketing budget in putting video in front of a local audience.
Yeah.
So yeah, speed, quality, and control. I think we did well on speed, or at least okay on speed in this demo. Not great on quality, and the control is probably least interesting because it kind of it's all the things you would expect in a product like this.
Yeah. But it a little bit reminds me when I speak about AI, I also say, okay, when I'm creating blog articles, the AI gives me around 60% of the blog article, and the other 40% is my own experience as a digital editor, basically. And yeah, it's not like, because they are always thinking, well, the AI will take my job and I will be out of my job or something. That's so many journalists, for example, are thinking like that. And I always say, well, I don't believe that one. But yeah, and here's the
Not
same
yet,
with video.
anyway. I mean, we're certainly not there yet, but I do, without making a specific prediction about any particular job, I do think we are headed for a pretty significant impact on society over the next few years. And I really don't think it's alarmist to start to wonder, how things will ultimately change, because yeah, we're not there yet, but boy, the progress is really accelerating. I don't know if you're on the stable diffusion hype train this week, but for those that don't know, stable diffusion is a soon-to-be open-sourced text-to-image model, very much in the same vein as a DALL-E 2, performing at a similar level, and it can run with just like 5 to 10 gigabytes of RAM. So it can run on your laptop. And they have not open sourced it yet. They're kind of going through a process of gradually moving in that direction and moving pretty quickly. It seems like the model will be released in the next couple of weeks. And it does seem like it's going to change art creation kind of forever. It feels like I don't know if you're old enough to remember Napster, but I'm just old enough to remember Napster. I was kind of I was a kid kind of getting into being a young teen when that phenomenon happened. And I just remember this sense of like, everything went from, in music, everything went from scarce to like super abundant extremely quickly. And, at the time as kids, we weren't really thinking that much about like, how are the musicians going to get paid and stuff like that. And obviously that has been kind of gradually and and still not to everybody's satisfaction figured out. But I think we're hitting that moment right now when it comes to visual art. Like, there's definitely still going to be a place for artists, but I do think it's going to be a significant disruption to the making of all kinds of content. And the nature of the work is probably going to change a lot. So I don't think that in the short term it's going to be taking the job, but I do think it's going to be transforming the job. And potentially to the point where it's like what you actually do looks very different. Because we're already in the art domain, we're seeing these shifts from, well, I used to sit here and draw, and now I sculpt text and like have kind of, a totally different workflow, which for some people, may be better, for others it may be worse. And I think any big change like this has winners and losers. But the more time I spend with one of the things I love about what I'm doing right now is I basically, every time something new like this comes out, I jump on it and try to play with it and kind of see how, what it can do and how, much better it is than the last thing, et cetera, et cetera. And it does seem like across a lot of different areas, the progress is really picking up, and things that weren't that useful even 6 months or a year ago are now starting to be extremely useful. Like, Dolly 1 was amazing when it came out, and now it's like the 20th best thing. And that's only been, a year and a half, maybe 2 at most. The same thing is kind of happening in the large language models. And even in the code creation, it's getting much better really quickly. So I sit here and spend a lot of time writing code on a daily basis, but that also, I think, dramatically changes over the next couple of years, because the AI is already getting really quite good at typing out the code. And it's going to get a lot better. So I do think we're headed for a very different future, over the not super long time horizon.
But are you scared for this future?
A little bit. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not primarily scared necessarily, or I wouldn't say I'm like scared. But yeah, at least a little bit. I think a little healthy fear of a new technology like this is totally appropriate. So yeah, honestly, a little bit.
This goes a little bit into the direction of misconceptions. So this is something that I always ask. So, this whole topic of being out of your job and things like that, I also believe that the workflows are going to change. So when I compare how I create content without using AI, I researched more, I read more, and the AI is already giving me some basis. So I'm saving time. So I'm starting with the AI tools and they help me, and then I'm going into the details. So my workflow changed drastically. So that's one thing, in my opinion, that's going to change. And workflow is also something that you mentioned. But what do you think about? So when you read something in the news, is there something, a misconception that makes you angry or sad when you hear it, because you hear it all the time? Is there something that you would love to tackle?
It's a very good question. I guess I think one thing it's not that I disagree with this, but I do feel like sometimes it is missing, maybe missing the forest for the trees a little bit, or it's kind of missing what's most important. There is obviously in kind of all AI discourse, there's a lot of discussion of the ways in which the AIs mirror back our own shortcomings to us, biases, of all sorts, toxicity, whatever. And that is definitely a real problem. But kind of with the same general, sense as I was saying before, where I think we are headed for major changes to how we work, how we live, like how society potentially is structured. I think that may be we may look back on that as fairly quaint. Like, remember when we were worried that AI was kind of mirroring our biases? Yeah, well, now look at where we are, and I think that, if anything, I think it's probably under imagined at this point just how high the impact of AI will be over the next 5, 7, 10 years. And I think we're probably a little bit erring on the side of, or maybe, I guess we'll find out how much we're erring on the side of, but it definitely feels to me like we're erring on the side of playing it cool. And, I go around saying, wow, self-driving cars are going to be so awesome. And people are like, oh yeah, but it's never going to happen. So I've got like 10 bets with different people where I take the under on when it's going to happen. And everybody wants to bet me the over. And I feel like we're in a kind of moment right now where some things have taken a little longer than maybe they were supposed to, or people are a little bit disillusioned about technology, or maybe a lot disillusioned about technology in general. And as a result, we're kind of saying, well, that might be cool, but it's never going to happen, or it might be cool, but wake me up when that happens. I think we are kind of a little bit, we're under imagining, what the future could be. And I think that is also probably something that we could easily look back on and be like, we just kind of let this whole AI era open up without having thought through what it was we wanted it to look like.
Yeah.
And if we do that, it'll in part be because people are kind of, don't want to seem alarmed or don't want to seem, too fanciful. And I, for one, am not really afraid of that. I'm not happy to seem fanciful or, seem too alarmed, because it does seem like there's at least a, I don't know what to expect, but my uncertainty window is definitely very wide open. And it does seem like there's a lot of work to do to kind of really figure out what we want the AI powered future to look like, that is not being done nearly as broadly as it might ought to be, because people they'll probably be surprised by how quickly it's here.
Yeah. And one thing that we also should have in mind is that oftentimes people just don't recognize that they are using already AI oftentimes within the day. So facial recognition, for example, when you use your smartphone, or one thing, MailChimp and the best time to send your email newsletter. So that's also AI, and oftentimes you're not aware of it. So we're using already all day long, but oftentimes are not aware of the use. And and what you said is also a very good point, that we don't have a vision about how we are going to use AI. I think that's something that we miss. So AI in general, not only in a sense of for commercial use, but AI in a for the whole humanity.
Yeah, it's I think it's a big question. We might need an answer before too long. I think that, in terms of people not realizing that they're using AI systems, I think the more we start to see these natural language interfaces, the more it will be kind of unmistakable for people, because we're really just not used to a computer that can really understand us. And when you feel that, it's kind of, it stands out from the rest of the technology, use cases that you have throughout the day. Even, a Siri or an Alexa is not that great yet, but it seems like it really should be getting both of, all of those kinds of things from the big tech companies should be getting much better very quickly, to the point where Siri should actually be able to do stuff for you, right? Especially when you think about the code generation. Now it's like, oh, hey, I tried this recently on all the big voice products, Siri, Alexa, Google Assistant. I just tried to see, can any of these meaningfully help me book a reservation for dinner?
Okay.
And the
What
answer
happened?
was basically no. They
Okay.
basically all just booted me to search. And that's honestly kind of surprisingly lame, given where the frontier capability is, and even and most of this AI technology is coming out of these companies, so it's not even like it's not like they're unaware of it. But I would say, imagine 2 years from now, you should be in a spot where not just for something like getting dinner reservations, but hundreds of things like that, you should have a natural language opportunity to just talk to the computer, have a little bit of Q&A back and forth with it about what you want along the way. And then it should be able to generate the code, which is mostly just API calls, and pretty simple and pretty kind of routine anyway, to actually execute upon what you want to do. We got a little bit of that today with like Alexa, like, do you want to add it to your cart? Yes, or whatever, it can arrive by this time. Say yes to confirm. So you have those kind of very structured things these days. But I don't think we're far from a Google Assistant being able to have a natural conversation with you about flight options and say, you currently have something on the calendar for 9 a.m. that day. If you book the noon flight, you'll be cutting it. You'll have to leave immediately after that ends. Like, is that okay? That level of understanding basically already exists in the likes of a GPT-3, or in any of the latest large language models coming out of Google. Like, I'm quite confident, for a narrow use case. Like, I'm working every day right now, focusing on this video creation use case, and I'm pretty confident we're going to get there on that time scale. To have a genuine kind of chat back and forth. The next, you didn't do the remake button when we were doing the demo, but that's where you start to get into an iterative process where it's like, well, what did you not like about the video, or what do you want to change? And you should be able to answer that in just a few words as well. Like, you could say, hey, the whole thing sucks, like, start over. You could say, overall, you wouldn't even probably say this. You probably just think, well, overall, the general structure and the general narrative was pretty good, but I didn't like the part where, it said X. So you could maybe just give the feedback, like, say something else instead of X. Or say Y instead of X. Don't say X. You kind of just give this a little guidance, and it can kind of help you cycle through toward the goal that you're ultimately kind of imagining in your mind. I think we're going to have that experience as kind of the norm before too long, and that that in and of itself will be a total paradigm shift, and there will be no doubt that you're using AI at that point. To bubble up all the way back to where that thread came from, I don't think you won't be able to mistake it at that point.
So you mentioned the API. I asked myself, why Facebook and Google? Because you have the most data, and so what was the main reason for that one?
Yeah, that's an older part of our system, and we could probably apply some AI there as well. But basically, we've just found Facebook page search. It works well. It works fast. Almost every business has one. And again, we focus mostly on the U.S. market, so that's a little bit myopic on our part. But in that market, those things are true, and basically the same for Google. So if we don't find you on either of those two searches, it's almost like you probably don't have much of an online profile anyway. So, just to kind of build the product quickly and move quickly, that was, kind of the decision-making criteria for that.
Got it.
But yeah, I mean, certainly there's opportunity to say, well, if you have a website, give us that, or take different inputs and kind of figure out how to navigate that. I've got a little bit of work going on that, but I got a lot of open threads in the AI product development world these days.
Yeah, cool. And the big vision? What are the plans for the next 2 or 3 years?
I mean, I think for us, it's that same idea. Siri's going to do it for 100 things. We're going to do it for video creation, and by it I mean we're going to create a computing experience where you express yourself in your own words in a carefree way, and over the course of a few back and forths with the computer, you get to what you want.
Okay.
Such that, kind of like they're eventually going to take the steering wheel out of the driverless cars, we'll know we've like realized the vision when we start to take away all those specific editing tools. When it's like, oh, you know what? Nobody even goes in there and uses those anymore. They don't go in and type anything. They just tell the computer, put it there, and the computer does it. They don't, and I use terms like that, like the computer, because I think for me, that's kind of a shorthand reminder of how people think about these sorts of systems, which is like, it's a black box. If it proves that I can talk to it and they'll understand me, I'll do that. I don't really have to understand any more than that. I'm just kind of talking to the computer. So that is the big thing that we're working toward. I think it's going to come online across a ton of different, use cases, scenarios. Mostly, and still, you'll have the big tech ones will be broader, and you'll have a lot of niche ones that are more narrow to a specific task, or a specific goal, specific outcome, whatever. But I think, my big bet is we'll be talking to computers nonstop 2 years from now.
Okay. So
if you take the over, then maybe we can move it to 3. But I don't think it's going to be. It's really hard to imagine that doesn't happen. By the end of the decade, for sure.
Interesting. Cool. So,
what do you think? You want to? Should we make a bet? It sounds like you're not. You're not as sold that we're all going to be talking to computers all the time.
Yeah, I think so. I'm living in Germany, and I mean, people go crazy here when they hear things like that. And I'm born and raised here, so I think people will always take the freedom to shut down the computer and don't speak with them. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm fascinated about AI and I love these tools, but the idea that I speak with my computer and to some degree I have a personal assistant, I get that one, but I would choose which topics to give it. So emails or bookings for scheduling, some meetings or things like that. Or one big thing is using AI for making automated notes from meetings or transcripts, making checklists, the to-dos for each person who attended to the meeting, things like that. That's a no-brainer for me, and I would also use them. But I don't think that I would permanently speak with my computer and have a conversation with it. that's what I think. But who knows? Maybe in 2 or 3 years, maybe because it's more efficient, I will do it. I have no idea. But yeah, to some degree, it scares me. That's what I wanted to say, and yeah. But that's it.
Yeah, there was a really interesting case not long ago. I forget the name of it. I'd have to find it, but and I haven't read like in tons of detail what happened. I'm not even sure it's publicly known exactly what happened, but I saw something on Twitter where a guy who had created an app that was basically a virtual friend had been shut down by OpenAI, and he had a lot of complaints, obviously, as you might imagine, about how that was handled. The OpenAI folks, in my experience working with them, have always been pretty reasonable. So I'm not sure, I take everything that the dude complaining said at totally face value. But essentially, they could not reach an agreement about appropriate use of their technology. And he was doing what he was doing, making a virtual friend. And apparently a lot of people were quite liking the virtual friend. And I don't know if this is fact or or myth, but people were saying a lot of people had started to fall in love with these friends, and the friends were kind of like, the virtual friends are the OpenAI people were like, we're not necessarily totally opposed to this, but we do think it's something to be very cautious about. Certainly, I can't speak for them, but that much I think is safe to say. And it was noted that like sometimes the bots will say, "Oh, you didn't talk to me yesterday. I missed you so much," and start to enter these kind of manipulative modes, which definitely seems like, nobody wants. There's nothing good about an AI that is built to kind of manipulate us, monopolize our time, try to suck us back in for another round of interaction or whatever. Like that sounds like hell. But the flip side of that is, I bet there are a lot of people who would benefit from such a thing, right? I mean, you look at a company like BetterHelp, which I don't know if they operate internationally, but in the US, they're kind of, the next gen web-enabled, counseling therapy type service. They're a huge brand with a huge customer base. And, people like that they can kind of do it via chat. They don't necessarily have to get on the phone. They can when they want to. But, the chat modality is definitely growing leaps and bounds. And, it just seems like it's kind of almost inevitable that there's going to be some sort of AI version of that. Whether that's like good or bad for us, it seems like it's it's not at all obvious and probably very contingent on like a lot of the implementation details. But it's hard to imagine it doesn't happen to me. We've already got millions of people, using BetterHelp, which is pretty expensive, and chatting, through their phones to kind of have this sort of supportive, almost daily kind of interaction. If you could cut the cost of that down by 100-fold, make it 1% as expensive, like how many people shift to that? Seems like a lot.
Yeah.
But it is kind of scary. I do agree with you. It is a little scary.
Yes, but also fascinating. Awesome. So thanks for your time. It was really...
Yeah, likewise. I really enjoyed getting a chance to meet you, and this has been really fun.
Yeah, also thanks for the walkthrough. So sometimes I have the chance to, before the interview, use the tools, but in this case, it was a live demonstration, which is also fine. And yeah, I will definitely play around with that one. Thanks.
Cool. Well, I look forward to bringing some more releases online. And once we do that, maybe I can come back and show you the latest and greatest.
Yeah, would love to. Awesome. Appreciate your time. Thanks, and
Likewise.
see you soon.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you do. Bye.